How to learn almost anything. Many of us dream of picking up new skills or mastering new subjects, but staying motivated can be a challenge. This brings us to an important first step. Chapter 1. Procrastination. Or, why do I always feel too lazy? It makes sense to start with procrastination, because the moment you try to learn something new, resistance usually kicks in. When you expose your brain to new information, the same areas that register pain get activated. No wonder you feel uneasy about it. That's why the best way forward is surprisingly simple. Just begin. You might tell yourself, I'll start when I'm in the right mood. But in truth, waiting for motivation doesn't work. No one else can take that first step for you. Once you push through and actually start, the discomfort fades quickly. You enter the learning zone, and over time, crossing that barrier becomes easier. Of course, starting isn't the only obstacle. As soon as you run into difficulties, your attention can drift. When frustration blocks your progress, your brain looks for a quick reward. Social media, games, or anything instantly gratifying. But if you want long-term fulfillment, you need to reset your focus and start again. How to remember what you learn. At its core, learning is about neurons in your brain creating and strengthening connections called synapses. Unlike a computer, your brain doesn't have a storage limit. You won't run out of space. But memory still requires processing time. That's why rest is essential. You can't absorb everything at once. You need repetition. Reviewing material strengthens fading connections, making knowledge stick. Your brain also prioritizes importance. If you've forgotten something, it might be because you didn't need it strongly enough. The best approach is to target what matters most right now. For example, in drawing, instead of tackling anatomy, perspective, and color theory all at once, focus on your biggest weakness first. And don't just read a book cover to cover, use the sections you need immediately and revisit them later. But the most critical factor in memory is sleep. During sleep, your brain not only strengthens synapses, but also clears out toxins that clutter memory. Physical activity and social interaction are also powerful. Exercise and conversations stimulate new neurons, boosting learning. On the other hand, isolation and inactivity can harm your mental health and learning ability, even with distractions. You might study while listening to music or watching something in the background. It's less efficient, but sometimes worth the trade-off if it makes the process more enjoyable. The key is to recognize the two modes of thinking. Focused mode, logical, left brain style. For concentration, problem-solving, and connecting new ideas. Requires minimal distractions. Diffuse mode, creative, right brain style. When your mind wanders, reinforcing what you already know. Music or background noise fits better here. Switch between modes depending on whether you're learning something new or expressing what you've learned. But no matter what, you must actively do the work yourself. Watching someone else draw or paint won't teach you the skill. You have to solve the problems firsthand. It's hard, and that's how it gets easier. New concepts can feel intimidating, especially when they seem abstract. The trick is to make them tangible and relatable. For example, in drawing, think of an eye as a marble with fabric, eyelids draped over it. When sketching a figure, start from the head and move down toward the supporting leg so you capture weight and balance. Making metaphors like these bridges the gap between abstract and real. Focus on the big picture, not every detail. Because understanding the essence first makes it easier to absorb complexity later. You still have to practice a lot. Memory requires testing yourself. Don't just reread material. See if you can recall and apply it. Mistakes are part of the process, not failures. Creative people often over-rely on intuition, repeating what they already know instead of deliberately practicing weaknesses. This creates a false sense of mastery. That's why deliberate practice, actively working on what you struggle with, is essential. And on the more analytical side, cramming doesn't work. Your brain needs time to build structures. Instead, mix subjects and alternate between them. That way, you give your brain time to process while also revisiting material often enough to reinforce it. Set aside structured time for deep study and freer time for exploration. Balance both modes, and you'll learn more effectively. The final lesson: it's all about the process. It's natural to procrastinate when something feels overwhelming. Maybe you've always wanted to make music, but the idea seems too big and scary. Instead of focusing on everything ahead, shrink it down to the next small step. Download music software, buy a simple instrument, or just play around. The fear is that learning will always be painful. But once you take initiative, each step gets easier. You don't need innate talent to begin. Effort, persistence, and consistency are the real talents that create results over time. So if you want to trace where talent begins, it starts with initiative. Everything else grows from there. Thank you for watching till the end. Subscribe.